Welcome, everybody, to the Investors Podcast 2.0 Wealth Mindset, where we dive into the minds of the successful real estate entrepreneur to uncover the tips and tricks that have allowed them to keep moving forward. I am your host, Scott Bauer, and I'm excited that you're here with us. Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Investors Podcast. I am your host, Scott Bauer. Today, I got a treat for you, something that you're not going to want to miss. This is Trevor McGregor with us today, and you're going to recognize Trevor from a couple of episodes in the past. Trevor's an international business coach. If you have not heard his name before, I highly suggest that you get onto trevormcgregor.com and take a look at him. He's helped me personally build my business and my life. He's been a personal coach of mine for a while in the past, and yeah, I'm excited to have him on the show. So Trevor, welcome. How are you?
I am blessed and grateful. Thanks for having me on, Scott. I'm excited to be here, and I love the work you do and some of the shows I've recently listened to. Again, man, you and your guests are off the charts. Awesome.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. It's an exciting thing. Matter of fact, for you listeners out there that have not listened to previous episodes with Trevor, he was one of the first that was on the show. He's made a couple of appearances, and it's the value you bring to the table, Trevor, is unmatched, really. I mean, it's for the clientele that you've been able to help coach, the people that you've surrounded yourself with, and actually have introduced me to over the years now, have been top notch. And so I'm excited to kind of talk about what your take is on what's going on right now, and just some tips and tricks you can give to the listeners. But first off, why don't you give the listeners a little bit more about your background, what you're focused on primarily, and what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, I've known Scott for, years and years and years. And we're very similar in the fact that we're here on purpose and with purpose to use real estate and personal growth to really take our lives to the next level. So my background is I'm a real estate investor, and I have been for, close to 20 years now, and predominantly started out in single family, moved to, smaller multifamily. Now do, single family, multifamily, large syndications, self-storage. My syndication partners and I bought a 1,900 acre hemp farm in Colorado last year. I'm an investor in a luxury resort in Costa Rica. And my wife and I are even investing as far away as Brisbane, Australia, in a modular housing company. So we got a lot of stuff going on in real estate, and there's really, no reason not to be excited, because I believe that real estate is the greatest wealth vehicle on the planet. Now, on top of that, I'm also a master platinum high performance coach. And I've done over, Scott, 25,000, that's an actual statistic, coaching sessions, in the last decade. And I've been fortunate enough to work with millionaires, billionaires, real estate investors, Fortune 500 companies, doctors, lawyers. I mean, you name it, I've done it. Franchise owners. And I'm telling you, if it's happening in your personal or professional life, I've probably seen it, I've probably heard it, and I've probably helped people go from where they are to where they truly want to be around it. And so I think being a real estate investor as well as a master platinum coach, it's given me a really unique perspective, because I'm able to take a lot of the stuff that I know people struggle with and literally help them navigate through it before some of it even happens. And I'm also blessed to have literally worked for the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Tony Robbins. Yes, I was one of Tony's top coaches on the planet for over half a decade. And again, having Tony's skill set, in my arsenal of tools has been invaluable to not only help my clients, but to help myself, really live an amazing life.
Well, I think that, once again, you're going to bring a lot of value to the call, not only because the listeners primarily that are listening to this right now are real estate investors, but they're real estate investors from the single family world, the multifamily world, commercial, land development. You talked about self-storage. These are all powerful investment vehicles that I know listeners that are listening to this can resonate with. Now, one of the biggest things that I want to touch on today that I think you can add a lot of value to is what we're all experiencing, which is this whole pandemic situation and the impact maybe that it has on people and on their business and on their mindset on how they can continue to move forward. Because for some, this has been a big roadblock. For others, it's been a massive opportunity that they can really capitalize on. And hopefully for you listeners out there, that's you. You're realizing that this is a big opportunity. But What are you seeing from your clients and from the people you've talked to over these last few months? What have you seen that has been the major, roadblock for people? What have you seen, or what has been your experience with these people?
Yeah, it's a great question, Scott. And it's easily, boils down to just a handful of things. So I guess, first of all, I've been calling this global pandemic, what I refer to, pretty much on every call is a global pattern interrupt, right? Here we are doing our own thing. Markets are happening, real estate's happening. We got a little bit of noise with global warming. And then all of a sudden, man, COVID-19 hits and literally shuts down the planet, right? So on top of that, if it wasn't, crazy enough to deal with COVID-19, now we got to deal with the Black Lives Matter. We got to deal with the riots, right? And soon we got to deliver, some craziness around the political rallies that are going to start happening. So with all of these pattern interrupts, with all of this, noise, the number one thing that I'm seeing, people be the most challenged with is mindset, right? Because mindset really boils down to, you either have certainty or you've got uncertainty. And we know that the majority of people out there right now have more uncertainty than certainty. So by listening to podcasts like this, by really surrounding yourself with the right people like Scott Bauer, you start to get some perspective. And we really start to see, hear, feel, and know that we can't control what's going on outside of us with the coronavirus, global warming, the riots, the political stuff, right? But we can control what's going on between our two ears. And that's where I come in, because I'm known as the mindset guy. I'm known as the guy that's going to take somebody and really start asking better questions like, are you more focused on the problem, or would you like to start focusing on the solution? Do you want to focus on, the fact that maybe it isn't business as usual? Or do you want to create, a strategy, a business strategy where it doesn't matter what's happening in the market or in the economy? We can go out there and make deals happen anytime we want. And so the summary of all of this, Scott, is really, it's an inside job, because there's only 4 things that people really need to latch onto in order to navigate through this crazy time. And those 4 things, partially come from Tony Robbins, and they're your state, your story, your strategy, and your standards. So before I get into that, how would you reflect on what I just said?
Well, first and foremost, one thing when I first started working with Trevor, one main thing that popped out to me that he constantly instilled in me is that, hey, listen, where focus goes, energy flows, right? And so if you're focused on the wrong thing, that's where your energy is going to flow to. You're not going to be in the right state. You're not going to be in the right state of mind that you can overcome whatever adversity you're dealing with. So key point there is make sure you look at what you're focused on and make sure you're focused on the right thing. Number 2, I think that it all starts with your state, like you said. You have to be in the right mindset. You have to shift even when you have a bad day, right? Or maybe COVID or some other situation has happened to you that has a negative impact on your life or your business. You have to change the way that you're thinking about that, right? Because if you're in my experience, if you're stuck in the moment, this victim mentality, this thing that happened to me was so bad, and that's where you focus on, well, of course, that's where your energy is going to go. It's going to be negative. But if instead you change the lens, you say, okay, this thing happened. Let's take a step back. Let's reorganize, and let's see how we can use this as an advantage to us or as a learning experience, so that next time I don't do this again, right?
That's it. And no, you're spot on. And it really does come down to focus. That's the first S word. It's really your state management, right? And state is comprised of your focus. Is your glass half empty or is your glass half full, right? Because if your focus is off, you're not going to be able to step in to the story or the strategy that you want to move forward. And what I picked up out of your share there reminds me of a great quote, right? And I'm a quote guy, that. I mean, you just dripped some great quotes in your opening, but Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich that every adversity brings with it the seed of equivalent advantage. To put that into layman's terms, every dark cloud has a silver lining if you look for it. And I find that a lot of real estate investors are afraid to look up at the dark cloud, and that's all they see if they do look up is how dark the cloud is. But I'll guarantee that the sun is behind there. And so if every adversity brings with it the seed of equivalent advantage or the seed of opportunity, we have to recognize, is our focus allowing us to go out there and find that opportunity? Does that make sense?
No, it certainly does make sense. And I think that a lot of the listeners would resonate with the why, or like, hey, this is what you need to be doing. But the problem for them is they don't know how to get there. Okay, so case in point, let's say somebody was out there and they were working their, I don't know, 50, 60, $100,000 job, and all of a sudden it got cut because of COVID-19. Now they don't have any income, right? Maybe they went on a furlough, maybe whatever happened, their income was now slashed. And now they're thinking, okay, I know that there's the bright sun on the other side of this dark cloud I'm in, but I just can't seem to get out of this headspace of negativity that I'm swimming in because I just lost my high-paying job and I don't know what I'm going to do for money. I don't know how to support my family. Can you give a tip or two to the listeners that may have that situation happening for them right now? Is there something that you can tell them, a strategy to help break out of that mindset?
Absolutely. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say this hasn't been a kick in the teeth for a lot of people.
Right.
I have a ton of, people that are real estate investors that are also W-2 employees that have been furloughed. They've taken a 30% pay cut. They've been told not to come back to work till September 1st, or literally they've been let go. So I've been doing double duty, as I think we talked about before we pushed the record button here, where I've never been busier helping people really understand that anytime any adversity happens, we really run a pattern. The first thing that happens typically is what we call shock, right? I'm shocked that, oh my God, things were going well, and now I don't even have a paycheck, right? We go from shock to denial. This can't be me. I'm better than this. I thought I was senior enough. I thought that I was, a huge part of this team. So once we go through that shock, we go through the denial, then we go into stage 3, Scotty, which is called anger, right? Now we get mad at our boss or our firm or coronavirus or, all of the other people who kept their jobs, and now we're feeling jealous, right? So we'll run these patterns of shock, denial, anger. Stage 4 is called questioning, where we start to question, why is this happening to me? Why is God punishing me? It shouldn't be this way. And we will literally keep running those 4 patterns. Well, if your focus is shock, denial, anger, questioning, and you never break out of those 4 focuses, you can't access what's on the other side of that. And what's on the other side of that through any adversity. I mean, even if you're diagnosed with an illness, you get hit in a car crash or get hit by a drunk driver, somebody in your family has a dis-ease like cancer diagnosis, heart attack, there is still the opportunity for you to really ask a better question. And that question is all of this happening to me, or could it perhaps be happening for me? Because I believe that anytime we face adversity, it's the universe's invitation to get us to grow, to step into another level, to take a look at possibility. But if we're stuck in a negative focus, we can't move beyond it to literally reinvent yourself. And so reinventing yourself, what's that about? Well, it's really talking about, do you want to do something in real estate? Do you really want to partner up with somebody? Do you want to start researching different market and doing some data analysis that you didn't have time to do when you were stuck in your job? So really, when you change the way you look at things, you literally change the things you look at. So my invitation to anyone who has been furloughed, fired, laid off, anything like that, is to really ask, what's the gift in it? And is it possible that this has been the exact thing that literally now you don't have to wait 5 years to quit your job to become a real estate investor, given that, we know that this is going to be a very opportunistic time for real estate investors to be investors. So again, does that make sense? And do you see how that's really the first step of changing the focus from shock, denial, anger, or questioning to more of a acceptance, healing, and now what do I get to do with this?
And also excitement, right? Because you have the excitement now of, okay, I don't have to wait for whatever it is. I don't have to wait to quit my job or whatever. Now my timeline has been expedited and now we're here. So now it's time to take action. And I think for a lot of people, that can be a very scary thing, right? And so not only have they lost their job maybe, or they had a major change in their life because of what we're all going through right now. But now they have a massive opportunity that requires them to take action, massive action, right? I remember
That's it.
we first started coaching together. You were always big, and you probably still are big about action, right? Nothing happens until you take massive action, period. End of story. That's what it is. And so are you realizing, or do you understand, you're an international business coach, so you have clients from across the world.
Yes.
Do you see the same type of scenarios happening for people in other countries right now that are dealing with the same type of thing? I mean, is it very universal?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Now, currently in the US, I have client representation in 37 different states, right? So I got a good idea what's going on in California, what's going on in Texas, what's going on in Colorado, what's going on in North Carolina, New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, a very good representation. But it even goes beyond that. I've got clients in Canada. I've got clients in the UK, in Spain, in Italy, in Asia, in New Zealand, and even as far away as Sydney and Brisbane, Australia. So again, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter if you're black or you're white, doesn't matter if you're gay or you're straight. This is a universal pandemic that's literally affected all people from all walks of life. So again, it's not really the circumstance of how these winds of change are blowing on you. There's a great quote by Jim Rohn, who was Tony Robbins' coach, as you know, Scott. And he said, it's not the winds of change that blow on us that will determine where we end up. It's the set of the sail, right? And I'll say that again, because the listeners will definitely want to write that one down. It's not the winds of change that blow on us that will determine where we'll end up. It's the set of the sail. And like I said, we've had the global warming wind. We've had the Corona wind. We've had the Black Lives Matter wind. We've had the riots. We've had phase one or wave one. Now we get to reopen. No, we don't. Now we've got wave number 2. There might be wave 3, 4, 5, 7, 10. Stack the old Biden and Trump thing in there. And I'm telling you, we're never going to forget 2020, are we? But it's not the winds of change that blow on us that will determine where all of my global clients end up. It's the set of the sail. And who, Scott, is responsible for setting their own sail?
Absolutely. Each individual person out there is responsible for their own setting of the sail. And I love what you're talking about, because I think that a lot of people feel very victimized by 2020. Actually, almost everybody that I know of says, I heard comments of, 2020 is the worst year ever. It seems like everything's bad is happening this year. Nothing's going right, etc. Things like that. And what that means to me is that they're not setting their sail the right way.
That's it.
Yeah, go ahead.
And Scotty, it really speaks to the second S. So if we go back to the first S was your state management. That referred to your focus. Now we can move, once we're really, aware of what that might be, whether it's good for our listener or not so good, they have the opportunity to change their sail of focus. But let's go to number 2, because number 2 is your story. And your story is really your identity. Are you a victim to COVID, or are you committed to being a victor in 2020? Because again, you can write the story any way you want. And you're right. Most people are stuck in victim mentality. But I'm telling you, if your focus isn't where it needs to be, and your identity is not really what I call your superhero, because you're living in your super villain or your super victim, what do you need to do to set the sail to get out of super villain or super victim and back into being, like Scott Bauer, a superhero, right? Because Scott's dealing with COVID, Trevor's dealing with COVID, a lot of our mutual friends who are investors are dealing with COVID. But I'm telling you, there's a different way of thinking and a different way of behaving that can help us navigate through this so that we can come out on the other side even stronger. Does that make sense?
Makes so much sense. Absolutely. And I think that you have to look, in order to overcome that and get out of the victim mentality, you have to look past and see the light at the other side of the dark cloud, right? Envision yourself looking at that bright blue sky with bright sunshine, right? You need to put yourself in that state of mind that, hey, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going, this is what it's going to look like when I get there. And as you do that, you start to envision yourself being there, and before you know it, you're there, right?
And the beautiful thing about this is now we can go something up to the future. Meanwhile, it means let's go back to a time in your life where you faced adversity before. Were you abused as a child? Did you have alcoholic parents? Did you grow up poor? Did you have trouble asking, the opposite sex out? Did you fail getting your driver's license when you were 16? Did you fail getting into the college of your choice? Because all of those things that have happened to us have also made you a stronger person. And some of that stuff has been really bad in terms of what happens to people that endure abuse or, have parents that aren't present and all of those things. We're trying to change that in today's world, but it really reflects on the fact that, hey, this isn't the first time you've faced adversity in your life, and it won't be the last time. That's why Scott and I are giving you the tools of state and story, because if we can help you with your focus and then we can help you with your identity, those two things must come first before we go to the third S, which is what Scott brought up. That is your strategy. That is where you absolutely take intelligent and inspired action to help you go from where you are to where you want to be. But my invitation to all of you is never enter into a strategy without first checking in with your state and your story, because without the right state and story, you can't execute your strategy as well as we'd want you to. So Scott, how did you reflect on that one?
Well, just like, if you're going to be a championship runner, right? And first off, you start from the very beginning, you don't know how to walk, right? You're never going to be a championship runner if you don't even know how to walk. So first you have to walk. You have to get good at walking. You have to understand how walking works. Then you have to learn how to run, right? And then you have to become proficient at running until you can go to the next step, which is to be the champion, right? So it's the roadmap of success. You have to start somewhere. You can't start at the end. You have to start at the beginning and work your way through the end. Is that a good way?
That's it. It couldn't be any better, because again, if you really think about you becoming a runner, you becoming a swimmer, you becoming a real estate investor, you becoming a parent, it all starts with what Tony Robbins, my coach and mentor, calls RPM. And again, this will take you back to our time where we started out, where we literally learned that there are only 3 steps that speak to the strategy. That is, what is the R? The R is for the result. What is the P? That is the purpose. Why do I want that result? And then the M in RPM is for the massive action. So when you know the result that you want and you have a big enough why, and your purpose statement is like, I'm defiantly committed to becoming a real estate investor. I'm defiantly committed to making some money. I'm defiantly committed to providing for my family. And then you take the massive action that a lot of Scott's guests teach here on this podcast. And Scott is an expert in. You know what? There's nothing really new in real estate. You follow a roadmap, a recipe, a blueprint to get from where you are to where you want to be by starting with, well, what kind of real estate do you want to do? What markets do you want to do it in? What kind of price per door do you want to pay? Are you doing it solo or with a partner? And so really the right state and the right story followed by the right strategy can definitely set you up to move through RPM so that you know what the result is, what the purpose is, and you start taking that massive action to get there.
I think that with today's events that have happened and that are continuing to happen, people need to hear that. Listeners of the show need to understand and hear that there is exciting things on the horizon. There are massive opportunities that are coming. And if you follow the roadmap that we just discussed, you're going to get there, right? Have you noticed where are there any areas of the world that you've coached at, or with students that you have, or people that you mentor, that are any different, or is it all of the exact same? And I kind of asked that question a couple of different ways, because I want to see, like you mentioned Asia, okay? Does Asia have a different perspective on what we're talking about than other people from the U.S. that you've seen?
Again, I think that Asia is a very competitive landscape. I think when you look at putting a population of that size into a smaller geographical zone, that it's really survival of the fittest. So where you've got a lot of people competing as business owners, real estate investors, doctors, lawyers, nurses, health practitioners, it's really, are you prepared to get up early and stay up late to work towards mastery in your craft? Because guys, the path to mastery is really doing the right things in the right order to literally learn about what it is you want to become an expert in. And that's why we can take Scotty Bauer here. Scott has literally invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into his personal growth journey. Scott has literally invested days, if not weeks, months, and years into studying the likes of Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, you name it. You know what? Scott can recite a lot of the stuff that are literally life lessons distilled down, which helped Scott turn decades into days. So I think that when I look culturally at different places, there's absolutely a different, kind of a vibration going on when people are defiantly committed to their outcome. Because Scott, you know this, I've said this to you before, that there's only two types of people in the world. The first type is the people that I call interested in getting to an outcome. The second group is what I call people who are committed to getting to the outcome. And here's the difference. People that are interested in becoming real estate investors will do it if it's convenient and if they feel that they can get there at some point. Whereas people that are committed, to being real estate investors, they'll do whatever it takes. They'll listen to your show. They'll listen to our friend Joe Fairless. They'll hire a coach like myself. They'll read the books. They'll go to the meetups. They'll go to the seminars because there's a defiant commitment in their state, in their story, in their strategy. And we haven't even talked about the fourth and final S yet, which is their standards, right? So let's take a look at that, because your standards are really where you draw that line in the sand, folks, and you say, you know what? I am absolutely never going back to a W-2 again. I know that there are other people making it in real estate, and I too want to join that club, or that tribe. Because guys, at the end of the day, you're only as good as the standards that you set and hold yourself to. And if you don't set standards, I'm telling you, the path of least resistance is going to kick in, and you're going to be on the couch on Friday nights watching Netflix or Disney Plus instead of working on your dream. Scott, what do you think of that one?
No, I mean, that's exactly it. That's helped me to get to where I'm at today and continue to thrive in this environment and forever. I mean, to raise that bar of standards is very important. And just to even not necessarily raise it, you might have a very, very high standard bar to begin with, but to achieve that and work towards it, to make sure that you don't get below that, I think is important for a lot of listeners to hear and to understand. Now, I want to get everybody excited right now because we've mentioned it a couple of times here in the call about being excited about the opportunities that present themselves. And I want to hear it from you. What do you think, and what can you tell the listeners to get them excited about the opportunities that we may see here in the near future?
Well, I'll tell you, Scotty, I've never seen a better time to be a real estate investor because, it's literally been a decade since we had a hiccup in this industry. I mean, we went through 2008, 2009, and a lot of people got knocked over pretty severely. Prior to that, you might take a look at the events of 9/11 or 9/11. That was a decade before, roughly. Take a look at that. We've had, stock market crashes and a lot of things. So I'm telling you, this isn't the first time that we've ever had to literally get up, dust ourselves off, and start climbing back up the mountain. Well, I'm telling you, with the number of investors I talk to, the number of economists, the number of doctors, lawyers, Fortune 500 executives, there's a common theme that this is the calm before a very good storm for real estate investors, because as we go through this challenging economic time, as we maybe enter into the quote unquote recession, there's going to be a lot of people that have lost their job or have been furloughed or don't have the savings, or, there's been some deferred maintenance on property, or tenants aren't paying, where they're just going to want to wash their hands of it. And as more and more people can't make payments, are unemployed, their rescue is going to be to move into maybe some multifamily, or maybe they're going to move in with their parents, or maybe they're going to just start living together in community, where we're going to be able to start picking up single family homes one by one by one by one in the 10s, the 20s, the 50s, the 100s. And I think that, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, as things start to normalize and set the way they did after any adversity on the planet, you're going to be damn happy that you picked up some of this property. What do you think?
I mean, I'm in absolute agreement on that. Specifically in the single family world, I kind of want to touch on that with you as well.
Sure.
Because asset classes vary, right? Just because you're a real estate investor doesn't mean that you're the best at every asset class out there. If you're in commercial properties, I'm afraid that you may have some troubles ahead of you. I really do. If you're in multifamily, depending on which part of multifamily, you may have some troubles. but it's actually, I mean, it's going to turn into being a good asset class as well as it always is. Single family specifically, though, I believe to be one of the hottest and best ones to be in right now. I really do, because of just the state, right? People don't want to be in a big conglomeration of a lot of other people when there's a virus that is traveled by people, right? They want to have their own single family opportunities. They want to be away from everybody. So I find there to be a lot of opportunity in that space. And I think that with the forbearance program that has been very popular here in the US, a lot of people, well, once that forbearance period ends, there's going to be people in trouble. There really, really is. And so what is your take? I mean, do you feel the same thing?
Oh my God. I know I will stack on top of what you said, because what you said is spot frickin' on. And I'm telling you, it's even more than that. I mean, we've got people that are literally leaving city centers in droves. They've been renting these high rises, overpaying so that they could be 3-4 blocks from their place of employment. Well, God, now you can work from home. There's this little thing called Zoom, or there's Google Meetings, where they are finally going to start to realize that they don't have to live in the ivory tower. And they're going to start to go look for homes over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because again, home ownership is part of the 6 human needs. It gives them certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution for the community. And I'm telling you, single family is almost really what I would consider right now a secret weapon, where people that really understand that there will always be a need for single family, that people are getting tired of, sheep following other sheep, living in communities where it's, there's noise factors, there's parking issues, there's trash issues, barking dogs, all of that stuff. They're finally going to go, you know what? Life's too short to suffer. Let's go out there and let's really realize these single family properties where we can have a yard, we can let our dog out, we can let our kids play. And so I think that there will be an opportune time for the investor to seize and take advantage of a lot of these properties ahead of when all of that will play out. Because right now, people are still afraid. They don't know how long this is going to last. They're kind of sitting still. They're maybe, kind of hanging out before they ever make that happen. And so I think for guys like you and I, and Scotty, I cut my teeth in single family, just like you cut your teeth in single family. I think that, man, to be a single family guy and be in this asset class could absolutely pay dividends for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to that. And I know that we have a lot of listeners on this podcast that are also single family that probably resonate with us as well. I'm excited. I was also unsure at the very beginning, but as I continue to watch the data, the facts, and understand, kind of what's going on, not only from a political side of things, because that does have an impact. I mean, it really does. Where this political environment goes to, I think will have an impact on it, but it's not going to be as bad no matter which way it goes. It won't be as bad as you might think it's going to be. So I'm very, very excited. I can't wait to be present and to be part of it. I'm going to be on the front lines, and everybody who's listened to the show and a loyal listener knows they can reach out to me for questions if they have anything like that, because I'm right here on the front line, and we're looking at data every single day, trying to see what's going on in our marketplace and how we can capitalize on it.
And that's what I love, Scott. That's what you've always been, and again, we've worked together for a long time. And I think one thing that I'll give you massive credit for, and a huge shout out, is you bring a few things to the table, like a growth mindset, right? The number one law of the universe, people, states that, expansion is really where it's at. Because if you're not in expansion, you're in contraction. And I've never seen Scott Bauer contract. That's a fact. That's number one. Number two, Scott's hungry. And if you're hungry, you're going to go out there and hunt. You're going to go out there and lift up data, lift up rocks, drive neighborhoods, do whatever it takes to become an expert in your market. So if he's got, really that growth mindset and he's got that hunger, he follows that up with the third thing, which is passion. I mean, Scott loves people. Scott loves the thrill of the hunt. Scott loves finding a deal, right? And so where you bring a growth mindset, you bring hunger, and you bring passion, anything is possible.
It's a deadly trio, that's for sure. And I appreciate the shout out. That means a lot. I think that it's apparent for all of our loyal listeners that have been around here. They understand my passion for this business, and I'm here to help people, really. I mean, this is a people business, right? I always enjoy talking to you because I can just kind of toot your horn a little bit. Every time I talk to Trevor, every single time at the end of the call, there's something, it doesn't matter whether I was in a bad mood ahead of time or not. At the end of it, I'm in such a better mood. I've learned something new and I have some action items to continue to move my day forward, which is so exciting. So anyways, Trevor, man, it has been great to have you on here today. I'm glad to reconnect with you again. Shared a lot of nuggets, I think, for the listeners to chew on and to really understand how they can thrive in this environment because, of course, we know the opportunities are ahead of us here. Do you have any last remarks here for our listeners?
Absolutely. And I want to give, all of the listeners a shout out because if you're, still on with Scott and I hope you're getting some golden nuggets or some distinctions. And I guess, the final thing I'd say, Scott, is that tough times don't last, but tough people do, right? Tough times don't last, but tough people do. So no, whatever you endured since March of 2020, and some of you have endured some pretty significant challenges. Some of you have been, moderate, and some of you have been okay. It's really irrelevant. If you really are defiantly committed to coming out of this, and moving to writing a better chapter in your life. And it's not just in real estate, people. If you're struggling in your career, in your finances, in your relationships, in your health, in your fulfillment, again, my belief is the universe is testing you to see how bad you want it. And if you listen to this show and you listen to some of the things Scotty and I are sharing with you today, the universe doesn't play favorites. You can have it just like Scott can have it, just like I can have it. Because again, Tony Robbins says that success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics or taking action. So it's time to do both.
Amen, man. I really appreciate you being here today, Trevor. Are you ready? We can't end the call off without a lightning round. Are you ready for some lightning round questions?
I am ready, my brother. Let's do this.
All right. So we've kind of gone over this on the entire call, but I want to narrow it down a little bit closer because how important do you feel that the mindset that you have coming out of this is going to be to your success? So when I say coming out of this, coming out of the COVID-19 scenario that we're coming in, how important do you think your mindset is going to be to really make a massive difference moving out of this?
Well, I think it's everything. And I think that, your mindset really speaks to, what are your thoughts? Because your thoughts produce feelings, your feelings produce emotions, and your emotions produce motivation for you to go take action so that you can get the results you want. So, the other thing I always say on these kind of shows is that if you go back to one of the best-selling personal development books of all time, Napoleon Hill wrote this little book called Think and Grow Rich. Note that he didn't write the book Do and Grow Rich. He wrote Think and Grow Rich because the thinking precedes the doing. So that kind of puts an exclamation mark on that.
Man, I love that. And I've read the book several times. I know you're an avid reader yearly, I believe, still, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. It's a phenomenal book for all you listeners out there that have not read it. I highly recommend it. It'll change your life. Second thing is, what are you reading right now, or what are you educating yourself on currently today?
Oh my God, how much time do we have? You could imagine after doing 25,000 coaching calls that I literally have clients all over the world, suggesting different books to read and, different things to review. So obviously Think and Grow Rich has been my Bible, along with, the practical concepts in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Outwitting the Devil is a classic. Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, or Personal Power. But some of the newer stuff is really, things that help us create systems, like the book Traction, or Never Split the Difference, or, there's just, I could rattle off a whole bunch of them, but I don't read, Scott. I'm more of an audiobook guy. So I literally, work out in the mornings, and I literally plug into, Audible or some of these audio books, and that's where I get my fix.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think about the advent of audiobooks, right? And what a great and brilliant way to go, because we're all very busy. In order to get what we needed to be doing every day, we don't have time to sit down and read a book like they used to be able to do. So the fact that you can listen to it is amazing. And I'm actually the same. I'm sure a lot of listeners are as well. What are you trying to learn specifically? Is there anything you're trying to learn at this point?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about, what this world really needs. How can we be more stewards of what's really needed? Because I'm at that stage of my career where, you know, I've amassed a fair size portfolio of real estate. My wife and I and our three boys have traveled to different countries all over this beautiful blue planet. I've done a ton of coaching calls, 25,000 of them. I've stood on stages. I've been on TV. I've been on radio. I'm often on a podcast. But now I'm really looking to learn, what does humanity really need? And what humanity really needs, and I'll give a shout out to my wife, is education, right? It's really where I'm proud to announce that my wife just released her second children's book called A New Alphabet for Humanity. Now, what's great about this is a children's book with world-class illustrations. They're just unbelievable, where we've rewritten the alphabet for today's world. So instead of teaching A is for apple, B is for boy, C is for cat, D is for dog, she's rewritten it with these incredible illustrations where, Scott, A is for abundance, and B is for bravery, and C is for compassion, D is for diversity, and E is for empathy. And it goes on and on and all the way through the alphabet to really teach words to the kids, who really need to understand some of these words in a really crazy world, so that they can start using these terms to live a better life. What do you think?
No, that is absolutely phenomenal. Matter of fact, where can the listeners get a copy of this book? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon, or you can just go to her website. It's alphabetforhumanity.com. And all proceeds are absolutely, we set this up where certain proceeds go to charity. We plant a tree for every book sold. There's flashcards, there's posters, there's a school curriculum. It's just a beautiful thing. We've shipped books to the Dalai Lama, the Queen of England, Elton John. We're going global with this because it's really what the planet needs.
Absolutely. And I love that. Matter of fact, we might pick up a copy of that, and I encourage all the listeners to do the same. I know the answer to this next question, but I don't think the listeners do. So we're going to go ahead and give it to them. What is your superpower?
Oh my gosh, Scott, you're putting me on the spot. My superpower is just my love for humanity and my love to contribute, right? At the end of the day, my mentor, Tony Robbins, says that the secret to living is giving. And so I, like you, have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars learning as much as I can about, personal growth, human development, why people think and behave the way they do. And it's become my laboratory, right? Like it was Tony's, where I believe that I can help anybody, anywhere, anytime with anything based on the skill set that I've got. But at the end of the day, it's all for contribution, because it's not about me. It's about you. It's about the listener. It's about the spouses, the kids, the communities. And what I love about real estate too is, Scotty, there's such a ripple effect. When you guys do a deal, it involves brokers, it involves lenders, it involves landscapers, general contractors, insurance agents. And not only do they benefit from that, but their families benefit from it. So I'm all about the compound effect. I'm all about really watching the ripple effect of what you and I do go out into the community and make our communities a better place.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And that is your superpower, is your ability to give back, to help people. You've helped me a ton and continue to do so. I look forward to staying in touch with you. But let's talk about how the listeners can reach you if they want to also get involved and plugged in with Trevor McGregor and get what I've got out of you. Where can they find you?
Well, thank you so much. And there's two places you can find me. You can go to my personal website. It is trevormcgregor.com. Or if there's anyone who's really serious about potentially doing some work together, I look for people that are committed, decisive, coachable, and resourceful. And if they really want to absolutely scale their real estate and they want to set up a discovery call with me, you can simply go to www.coachwithtrevor.com. That's coachwithtrevor.com. Fill in your details. I'll get an email and we'll set up a time to talk. But trevormcgregor.com or coachwithtrevor.com are the two ways to find me.
Phenomenal. And I encourage you, all you listeners that are listening to this right now, that have stuck with us to this point, that means that you're interested. Go there now. It is worth your time to research Trevor, to get in touch with him. He's offering a free discovery call where you get some time with him on the phone to see if it's a fit. And I promise you, he will change your life. He will change your life. And so, and also, if you're driving in the car or you're in a spot where you can't write that down, make sure to check back with us. This will be in the show notes. We'll have a direct link right there, so you can just click on it and go visit his website and his coachwithtrevor.com if you want to set up a discovery call. And of course, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We want to make sure I get everybody that wants to, or I share this to everybody so that they can all listen to it. We're very excited. And Trevor, you've been phenomenal, man. Thank you again for being here.
Well, thank you for having me on, my brother. And I love the work you do. A huge shout out to you and all of your team behind you. You do a first-class job, and you do that in every category of life. And for that, I honor you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you real soon.
Take care, my friend.